On the rearmost explosive occasion of the young and the restless, Genoa City is rocked to its core when a single envelope, thin, clinical, and deceptively ordinary, changes everything the Abbott and Newman families allowed. They knew about fidelity, heritage, and blood. Named Jack's blood test exposes Matt's true mother, Hope Newman's DNA agony, Y&R Update 24. This chapter unfolds with the kind of laggardly burn intensity that only this iconic day drama can deliver. At the center of the storm stands Jack Abbott, proud primogenitor of Jabbo, whose decision to still authorize a private blood test gyrations into a disclosure no bone was prepared for. What began as a simple medical palladium, and trouble to rule out a heritable condition after youthful Matt fell ill, snappily becomes a full-bloated identity extremity when the results indicate a motherly mismatch. The DNA labels do interline with the woman Matt has always known as his mama. And as the counter-accusations sink by, one name echoes through the Abbott manse like a rumored trouble Hope Newman. The occasion opens with Jack pacing in his office at Jabbo, the weight of responsibility etched into every line of his face. He's always believed that verity, no matter how painful, is better than living a taradiddle. But as he gapes at the lab report in his pulsing hands, he realizes that verity can be an armament, one that could fracture families beyond form. The figures are inarguable. The mitochondrial DNA doesn't match the motherly profile on record. Someone prevaricated. Or someone doesn't know the verity. Jack's mind races back through times of complicated connections, secret affairs, and hopeless cover-ups. In Genoa City, secrets have a way of resurfacing at the worst possible time. And this one threatens to crump like a lemon in the heart of both the Abbott and Newman dynasties. Meanwhile, across city at Newman Enterprises, the atmosphere is inversely tense. Hope Newman, who has fought lifelessly to sculpt out her own identity separate from the redoubtable shadow of her family name, senses that commodity is wrong long before she hears the details. She's been trying to rebuild her life, fastening on her career and distancing herself from once dishiness. But when Jack requests a private meeting, her instincts scream that the history is about to collide with her present. Hope has always flattered herself on her strength, on her capability to repel the judgment that comes with being a Newman. Yet nothing could prepare her for what Jack is about to reveal. The battle scene is raw and undressed. Jack doesn't charge, he presents data. He places the lab results on the table between them like substantiation in a courtroom. His voice is steady, but there's an earthquake beneath it. He explains the medical enterprises, the routine nature of the test, and also, precisely, the distinction. Hope's original response is unbelief. She laughs, a brittle sound that cracks under the pressure. There must be a mistake. Labs make crimes. Samples get switched. But as Jack calmly assures her that the test was repeated, doubly, the color drains from her face. Because deep down, in a place she's tried to bury for times, Hope knows there's a possibility she's been running from. Flashbacks intercut the present-day battle, offering casts into a turbulent chapter from times agone. A secret gestation. A hurried decision made under emotional constraint. A sanitarium room filled with hushed voices and an important family determined to control the narrative. The story suggests that during a time of chaos and vulnerability, a switch may have passed, purposeful or else. Was Matt born to hope? Or was he part of a larger scheme designed to cover reports and secure alliances? The nebulosity keeps observers on edge, as the verity feels both within reach and plaintively distant. As the news begins to ripple outward, the fallout is immediate. At the Abbott manse, Diane is stupefied when Jack confides in her. She's no foreigner to reproach, but this disclosure threatens to destabilize everything they've worked to rebuild. Diane worries about Matt, about the emotional risk this could take on a child caught in the crossfire of adult miscalculations. She urges Jack to do with caution, to prioritize the boy's well-being over all additional. Jack agrees, but he also knows that secrets mold. And if there's one assignment Genoa City has tutored him, it's that buried trueness always resurface. Over at Crimson Lights, whispers begin to circulate. Genoa City thrives on scuttlebutt, and it doesn't take long for Enterprise to enkindle. Could this be another Newman cover-up? Is Jack seeking vengeance for once backstabbings? Or is this a genuine hunt for verity? Characters like Phyllis and Billy weigh in with their own propositions, each bringing their history and impulses into the blend. The pressure is palpable, as alliances shift and old injuries renew. The possibility that Matt's true mama isn't who everyone believed forces each character to rethink their hypotheticals. Hope's world begins to unravel as she confronts her own recollections. She recalls the night of Matt's birth, pain blurred by prostration, opinions made in the haze of fear and pressure. There were exchanges she wasn't completely part of, documents she inked without reading every line. She trusted the people around her. She trusted her family. Now, she's forced to question whether that trust was lost. The idea that her child might have been taken, or that she might have intentionally raised someone additional's child, becomes an agony she can't escape. Victor Newman's brewing presence adds another subcast of complexity. Though not directly involved in the original disclosure, his influence hangs over the situation like a storm cloud. However, if there was a cover-up, it's hard to imagine it passing without Victor's knowledge. If there was a switch, the study alone sends chills through Hope. Defying her father has no way been easy, but this time the stakes are particular in a way they've no way been ahead. She demands answers, and Victor's cryptic responses only consolidate the riddle. He insists he did what was necessary to cover the family. But cover them from what? As the disquisition continues, Jack orders an expanded DNA panel, widening the compass to include other implicit motherly matches. The suspension builds with each scene, as observers are left to wonder who Matt's natural mama truly is. Could it be someone long study gone? Someone presumed dead? Or someone still living in Genoa City, ignorant of the connection? The possibilities are endless, and each carries its own emotional weight. The pens consummately weave together once stories, creating a shade of connected secrets that feel both shocking and ineluctable. The emotional core of the occasion remains Matt himself. Though shielded from the full verity, he senses the pressure around him. Children frequently perceive what grown-ups try to hide. His confusion and vulnerability add urgency to the unfolding drama. Jack struggles with how important to tell him, balancing honesty with protection. Hope, meanwhile, is torn between fighting for the part she's always known and preparing herself for the possibility that everything could change. The bond between parent and child is tested not by lack of love, but by query about biology. In a apocalyptic moment, the alternate round of results arrives. The extended DNA comparison narrows the field dramatically, pointing toward a shocking conclusion. Matt shares a definitive inheritable link with Hope, but not in the way everyone assumed. The labels indicate that Hope is biologically connected, yet the motherly line suggests a surrogate or embryo transfer script. This disclosure reframes the narrative entirely. Rather than a simple switch, the verity may involve supported reproductive technology, secrets about benefactors, and opinions made in despair. The DNA agony isn't about a stolen child. It's about hidden origins and a verity designedly obscured. Hope's breakdown is heartbreaking. The consummation that she may have carried Matt without completely understanding the circumstances, or that her own inheritable material was used in ways she wasn't informed about, feels like a violation. She confronts her family again, demanding translucency. This time, cracks appear in their stoic facades. The admission comes in fractions: a medical extremity, limited options, a controversial procedure arranged still to avoid reproach. The intention may have been to cover, but the cost was autonomy and trust. Jack, though vindicated in his pursuit of verity, finds no satisfaction in being right. Rather, he's left scuffling with the ethical counteraccusations of what's been uncovered. He reflects on the meaning of parenting, how love, commitment, and diurnal presence frequently matter further than DNA. The occasion closes on a poignant scene at the Abbott manse, where Hope sits beside Matt as he sleeps, gashes slipping quietly down her cheeks. She whispers a pledge that no matter what wisdom says, she'll always fight for him. Y&R Update 24 leaves observers with further questions than answers, setting the stage for unborn competitions and emotional reckonings. The plot gates into universal fears about identity and belonging, while staying true to the high-stakes, intergenerational drama that defines the young and the restless. Jack's blood test may have exposed retired trueness, but in Genoa City, verity is no way simple. It's layered, complicated, and frequently painful. As the dust settles, one thing is certain: the bonds between the Abbotts and the Newmans will no way be the same. And in a city erected on power and heritage, the question of who Matt's true mama is becomes further than a natural mystification. It becomes a battle for identity, love, and the right to define one's own story. The fallout from the DNA disclosure continues to ripple through Genoa City on the young and the restless, and what originally sounded like a contained family extremity snappily escalates into a multi-layered reproach with emotional, legal, and commercial consequences. The morning after the extended test results face, Jack Abbott wakes before dawn, unfit to shake the feeling that he has opened a door that can no way again be closed. The lab findings attesting a complex natural connection between Matt and Hope Newman, one involving supported reproductive intervention rather than a simple motherly line, forced Jack to define not only what happened times ago, but why it was hidden so precisely. He sits alone in the Abbott living room, the house surprisingly quiet, replaying every discussion he has ever had with Hope, with Victor, and with the Crokers, who formally assured them that everything had been handled discreetly. Hope, meanwhile, finds herself under a different kind of microscope. Though the specifics of the DNA situation remain largely private, Genoa City thrives on suspicion and gossip. People smell when commodity seismic has passed. At Newman Enterprises, associates bruit about her detracted address and the way she suddenly cancels meetings. She feels exposed, as if her body and her history have come public property. The idea that she may have carried Matt under circumstances that were incompletely concealed from her, that medical opinions were made with deficient exposure, haunts her. She begins to question every detail of that time in her life: the sanitarium paperwork, the Crokers involved, the way certain family members claimed on managing logistics for her own good. Victor Newman's presence looms larger with each passing hour. Though he insists that his intentions were defensive, his reluctance to offer full translucency only energizes Hope's dubitation. When she eventually confronts him in his office, the exchange is explosive. Victor remains composed, but there's a flicker in his eyes, an acknowledgement that further happened than Hope was told. He explains that at the time, there were medical complications. She had been advised that natural generality was doubtful. The family stressed reproach, vulnerability, and the eventuality for exploitation by business rivals. Arrangements were made fleetly and still, involving advanced fertility procedures and non-public agreements. Victor claims that everything was done to ensure that Hope could have a child without enduring public scrutiny. But Hope counters that protection without concurrence isn't protection, it's control. Jack, for his part, refuses to let the matter rest at emotional battle. He consults a legal expert specializing in medical ethics, seeking clarity on what scores was at the time and whether Hope's concurrence was completely informed. The council's primary assessment suggests that while confidentiality clauses and private arrangements aren't uncommon among important families, the line between discretion and deception can be dangerously thin. If Hope inked documents without full understanding, or if critical information was designedly withheld, there may be grounds for legal expedient. Jack is torn. Pursuing responsibility could mean dragging deeply particular details into public court. Yet ignoring the issue feels like conspiracy. At the Abbott manse, Diane expresses concern that Jack's determination to uncover every subcast of the history may reignite long-standing pressures between the Abbotts and the Newmans. She reminds him that Matt's emotional well-being must remain the precedence. The boy has begun asking subtle questions. He senses that commodity has shifted. He notices the hushed tones, the way grown-ups stop talking when he enters a room. Diane suggests that a family counselor might help them navigate the delicate process of exposure. Jack agrees, fating that verity must be introduced with care. Hope, floundering to recapture her footing, seeks solace in quiet moments down from commercial boardrooms and family competitions. She visits the domain where she formerly pushed Matt in a stroller, recalling the inviting love she felt. Biology, she realizes, has no way been the source of that bond. Yet the knowledge that critical opinions about her body and her child's origins were made in murk leaves her feeling unmoored. She arranges to meet with one of the Crokers, involved in the original procedure, hoping for clarity. The Croker, now semi-retired, appears uneasy. He confirms that the fertility intervention involved a patron embryo created using Hope's inheritable material and a named paternal sample, chosen for comity and discretion. The intention was to maximize success while maintaining sequestration. But when Hope asks why certain details were minimized in her briefing, the croaker deflects, citing the urgency of the situation and the influence of important family members. This disclosure reframes the narrative yet again. Matt is biologically connected to Hope, but the path to his actuality was shaped by strategic opinions made under pressure. The paternal inheritable element becomes a new focal point of inquiry. However, who named him? What criteria were used? And was Jack ever informed of the full compass of the arrangement? The possibility that another natural connection exists, one that could carry its own emotional and legal counteraccusations, adds another subcast of suspension, if a patron was involved. Billy Abbott, no way one to remain silent during family bouleversement, voices dubitation about Victor's motives. He suggests that the fertility arrangement may have been designed not only to cover Hope but to secure a particular inheritable advantage, an heir at law with precisely curated lineage. His enterprise infuriates Victor, who dismisses it as paranoia. Yet Billy's words loiter. In Genoa City, heritage is currency. The idea that indeed generality could be told by strategic computation feels unsettlingly presumptive. As the days pass, Hope's internal conflict intensifies. She oscillates between gratefulness for having Matt in her life and wrathfulness at the circumstances that shaped his origin story. She begins drafting a letter to him, one she may no way give, explaining the verity in language he could understand when the time comes. Writing it becomes remedial, a way to reclaim narrative control. She emphasizes that he was wanted, fiercely and designedly, indeed if the process was more complex than he might imagine. Jack's disquisition uncovers another astounding detail: the fertility clinic used for the procedure had been involved in a former contestation regarding deficient exposures to high-profile guests. Though no felonious wrongdoing was proven, the clinic settled multiple civil complaints related to informed concurrence. This discovery strengthens Jack's resoluteness. He meets with Hope to partake the information, careful not to inflame her feelings further. Rather, he frames it as environment, substantiation that her instincts about withheld information may be valid. The two share a rare moment of solidarity. History conflicts fade in the face of a participated commitment to Matt's well-being. They agree that anyhow of natural oddities or once deceptions, they must present a united front for him. The discussion marks a subtle shift in their dynamic, from adversaries navigating dubitation to abettors defying a complicated verity. Meanwhile, whispers begin to reach the media. Though no names are published, an anonymous tip hints at a high-profile fertility contestation involving prominent Genoa City families. The trouble of public exposure looms. Victor mobilizes his legal platoon, determined to contain any implicit reproach. Hope resents the recrimination that image operation takes priority over emotional mending. She insists that if the story breaks, it'll not be because she sought attention but because secretiveness types enterprise. In a vital occasion, Matt overhears fractions of a discussion about benefactors and DNA. Confused and alarmed, he confronts Hope directly, asking whether she's really his mama. The question pierces her. She kneels beside him, choosing honesty tempered with consolation. She explains that families are formed in numerous ways, that occasionally croakers help parents bring children into the world. She assures him that she carried him, that she chose him, that love defines fatherhood further than any test. Though he doesn't grasp every nuance, he seems assured by her certainty. Jack watches the exchange from a distance, moved by Hope's countenance. In that moment, the oddities of genetics feel secondary to the inarguable bond between them. Yet he knows undetermined questions remain. The identity of the paternal patron could have medical significance. It could carry counteraccusations for heritage, for unborn health opinions, and for emotional identity as Matt grows aged. Hope eventually decides to request access to the clinic's full records, indeed if it means grueling confidentiality agreements. She argues that as the natural and legal mama, she has the right to comprehensive information. The clinic resists, citing sequestration protections for benefactors. A legal standoff begins, one that tests the boundaries between individual rights and contractual scores. Victor attempts to intervene, prompting Hope to consider the consequences of forcing exposure. He warns that unraveling every thread could expose vulnerabilities that extend beyond particular embarrassment. But Hope stands firm. For formally, she refuses to allow strategic caution to stamp her autonomy. As pressures mount, a advance occurs.